Hello there, everybody. I'm Ross Pitt Shark Hunter. Welcome to Ross and Wizzy's Fanfiction Power Hour. Now, I know you might be thinking, Ross, didn't you forget Wizzy? Well, funny thing about that, I killed Wizzy. So now he isn't going to be joining us anymore. Unfortunate, I know.
I hope people have called the police by now.
What was that?
It's me. I'm Wizzy.
How'd you get here?
Because you just shot me in the foot.
Is that not where the heart is?
Heart is where the home is.
I hate Wizzy. And speaking of heart, My Little Pony fanfiction.
Yay!
Today's fanfiction is called Twilight Sparkle is in Outer Space by Palm Palette. You know, this actually sounds kind of a bit like Continue that we read recently.
Does it?
Now I think about it. Yeah, a little bit. It has the whole Twilight Sparkle is in a someplace. She doesn't know why. But, you know, whatever. You know, not the closest we've had to a comparison.
Chapter 1. Celestial Screaming Bodies. Beyond the edge of the sky where Aurora's shimmer lies, an emptiness so
You're gonna regret
profound.
doing that voice.
I didn't regret it in the first one. I'm not actually even sure if that was the first one. It was an early one, though. So profound that it's hard to fathom. Beyond the moon, the sun, the other planets, lies the blackest and coldest of voids. But it's not quite empty. Oh no. Outer space is more than just a vacuum. It's full of the wonders of the cosmos. Nebulas, comets, stars, solar systems, asteroids, galaxies, and everything in the entire universe is technically in outer space. Oh, and Twilight Sparkle is there too.
Why am I in outer space?
She asked, staring with wide, glossy violet eyes at an endless sea of starry dots and cosmic dander. The full vastness of the universe was laid bare before her. Her legs wiggled, waving freely in the empty vacuum.
What am I even doing here?
Panic rose as she flapped her wings, and the shifting of her mass made her wobble. She might be drifting somewhere, or she might not. The nearest star was at least 10 light years away. Sweat beaded on her purple hide as she twisted about, slowly tumbling in a frantic fuzzy ball of flailing limbs.
Help!
She shouted, her words going nowhere except to her own ears. All right, is this just like a poem in between or something?
This is Maud.
Oh, it's Maud?
Yes, Maud Pie.
Oh boy. I like rocks. Rocks are hard. I like poetry. Poetry is hard. Rocks are poetry, except they are not. They are rocks. Once it became apparent that Maud had stopped talking and the silence had become awkward, a smattering of light applause filled the clubhouse. Ponies wanly grinned and glanced at the clock on the wall. Idly stirred cold tea with soggy straws and generally wondered how they'd let Pinky convince them to attend Maud Pie's Marathon Rockathon. 1,001 poems about rocks.
Ha ha ha!
Pinky was the only one clomping her hooves enthusiastically.
That was a great one!
She grinned, nudging her elbow at the seat next to her.
What do you think, Twilight? Wasn't that the best of the 584 poems about rocks we've heard so far?
Her elbow kept on going, landing not upon the soft body of her fuzzy friend, but upon the vast cold emptiness of the absence of pony flesh. Gross. Her eyes widened and she promptly collapsed, landing sprawled out on the scuffed, grainy wooden floor.
Twilight?
Getting up, she glanced about, eyes swiveling to and fro. Alas, while the clubhouse contained numerous ponies of various shades of sleepiness, none was an alicorn princess.
Oh no! Twilight, she is gone!
Twilight was, in fact, still in outer space.
Help!
She yelled, continuing to flail in the vast emptiness of the cosmos as she tumbled about.
Help!
Oh, so that's what a lederhosen dress feels like.
Rainbow Dash said. She adjusted a fur-tight, flush garment cinched round her waist. Posing in front of the 3 tall mirrors, the bunched-up fabric swiveled about like a farmer's tutu.
Yes.
Rarity squinted through her reading glasses at lengths of measuring tape floating in the air. She used pins to affix paper cutout swatches to a nearby ponyquin. Ponyquin?
Ponykin.
Ponykin. What is a ponykin? Is that like a harlequin?
It's like a mannequin.
Oh, that makes sense. I don't know where I didn't make that conclusion.
It's such an underappreciated fabric, like a working mare's silk.
Hopping off the ceiling fan, Pinkie Pie came crashing down on the fashion dais. Her friends jumped, barely avoiding pink elbows as Pinkie dramatically flung her forelegs in the air.
Girls, I need your help. Twilight Sparkle has gone missing. Missing?
Rarity asked. Isn't that the same voice you usually do for Discord?
No, this is the voice I do for Discord. This is the voice I'm doing for Rarity.
Yeah, it's a little less like Squidward. Rarity asked. Her eyes darted about as she removed the objects, especially the sharp and pointy ones, from the nearby airspace.
Yeah, we were at the clubhouse having the most wonderful, amazing time while Maud was reading her super duper whooper marathon poetry about rocks. And I don't know why ponies are so mishy-mashy about it when it's just so incredible. But anyway, she was right in the middle of it and read her most epic piece yet. I was like, woot and yeah. But when I went to hoof bump Twilight Sparkle, she was gone.
Pinkie's chest heaved and she gasped, panting for breath. While Pinkie was raving, Rainbow Dash darted behind a mirror and promptly reemerged sans one chafing pink dress. She tossed the garment in a crumpled heap. This elicited a light glare from Rarity, who otherwise kept her eyes on the frothing pony, who almost smacked Rainbow in the head.
Whoa, calm down, Pinkie,
Rainbow said, bobbing her head to avoid a wild swing from a pink hoof. She flew up to get out of range.
What is this about?
What is it about? Why, only the most important thing ever. Twilight knew just how important Maud's poetry marathon was. She promised she'd be there for the whole thing, and now she's not.
Big, blue eyes started welling up with tears.
Wait, that?
Rainbow asked.
You mean that thing that's as dull as rocks?
But After a snort and jutting full-body glare from Pinkie Pie, Rainbow flew a little higher.
I'm sure it's interesting, and I totally would have been there, but I had way more important things to do,
Rainbow said.
Speaking of important things, Twilight's a princess. Maybe something came up and she had to go?
Rarity said.
Well, maybe, but she wouldn't have left right in the middle of things without telling me first.
Rainbow Dash nodded.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like her.
Are you certain she didn't just go to the bathroom?
Rarity asked.
Puffed. Don't be silly.
Pinky waved a hoof dismissively.
Every pony knows that princesses don't potty.
That's when Pinky gasped. Her eyes widened,
Gasp.
and she stared up at the high ceiling.
Oh no, I think I figured it out. Twilight vanished because she is in outer space.
What?
Rainbow Dash's face wrinkled as she scrunched it up.
That's ridiculous.
Panting for breath, Twilight Sparkle had stopped screaming, but she hadn't stopped tumbling through the infinite black void.
I can't believe I'm in outer space.
Slowly spinning, she watched the same spiral galaxy drift past her field of view endlessly, over and over again.
This is ridiculous. Rainbow, just because she's Pinkie Pie doesn't mean that we should dismiss what she has to say.
Yeah, I know.
Rainbow Dash rolled her eyes anyway.
She was right about those parasprites, though, so...
She scratched her head, then looked back at the pink pile of pout.
Pinky, even if Twilight is in outer space, what could we even do about it? It's not like I can just fly off the planet and go looking for her.
Well, duh.
Pinky said, then started pacing back and forth. Her hooves rang against the tiled floor like coconut chimes. Oh, like coconut wind chimes.
If we want to rescue Twilight, we will have to approach this logically. We need a solution that's down to earth.
She scrunched up her muzzle as she paced.
Based on what I know, the most logical thing to do would be to get as bored as possible.
What? Bored?
Rainbow asked.
That's logical.
Rarity asked.
Yep.
Pinky stood up and clacked her hooves together.
Absolutely freaking bored.
Both her friends shrugged. Rainbow Dash flew down and pointed.
Are you talking like watching paint dry bored, or...
Pinky stiffened and she shuddered.
The clones. The clones.
Okay, so maybe not watching paint dry.
She landed and rubbed her chin.
What about, watching grass grow? That seems pretty boring.
I don't know.
Rarity pulled in a rack full of sleek, leafy green dresses.
I found such wonderful inspiration while watching grass grow. That's not really boring at all.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yeah, what's up, buddy?
The clones?
Ah, yes. Well, there's this episode in season 3. Crap. It's called Too Many Pinkie Pies. Basically,
Oh, I know that one.
yeah. Basically, Pinkie Pie goes into this mirror pool so that she can be in two places at once. She clones herself, right?
Yeah.
And the clones basically clone themselves, and, well, everything gets out of hand. But then they get the bright idea that only Pinkie Pie, the real Pinkie Pie, would be able to stare at or watch paint dry long enough, because the other Pinkie Pies are all about, like, fun, and stuff like that, right?
Oh.
So the real Pinkie Pie is able to watch paint dry for long enough, and while they send the others to their death.
Oh my god.
It's okay, not all of them died.
Maud Pie!
No. Moron.
Excuse me? We don't use hurtful words on the podcast?
Yes, we do. Well, I do.
Alright, where was I?
Wait, seriously?
Rainbow Dash walked over and hoofed through the items. She lingered on one lined with sapphire beads, squinting so hard that her eyeballs nearly touched her nose.
I can see the resemblance to an unshorn lawn, but what are gems for?
Oh, this one?
Lifting it off the rack, she levitated it next to a window and drew back the curtains to let a ray of sunlight hit it. It dazzled and gleamed, sparkling vividly.
They capture the essence of morning dew burning away in the early dawn hours.
Wow, that's bright.
Rainbow Dash covered her eyes, rubbing them with the tips of her wings.
Huh? Only you could find a way to make watching grass grow somehow not be boring.
Rarity put the dress back, shuttered the window, and rolled the cart away.
Yes, but I'm not really sure I'd phrase it quite like that. I was admiring the natural splendor, mesmerized by picturesque beauty, dazzled by stalks that danced with song upon an ephemeral breeze. It just so happens that what I was looking at was, well, grass. And it was growing at the time, so... girls, that's fascinating and all, but it's not really helping.
Pinky said. Rainbow Dash nodded.
Well, if you want boring things, I think the most bored I ever was when I got stuck in detention at flight camp and they made me suck up an entire cloud bank with an eyedropper. So is that like military school or something?
Flight camp? No, it's just where Pegasi learned how to fly.
Man, I wonder what their military school would be like. Do they have a military? They must.
Sort of, in a way. I mean, Rainbow Dash goes to, like, the Wonderbolts school thingy. The Wonderbolt training thing. Whatever you call that.
She clenched her teeth and shuddered.
So boring.
My, that sounds dreadful.
Rarity tisked.
Yeah, and that wasn't even the worst part. They thought I was being too rambunctious or something, and whenever I tried to go faster, they stopped me and made me do it over, but like 20% slower. It took forever.
Clouds are like way up there, and I'm kinda right here.
Pinky said, pointing at the ceiling and back at herself.
I mean, that does sound dull, but I'm kinda in a hurry. So, when it comes to things that make me bored, there's kind of a sweet spot for it.
Rarity said.
How so?
Asked Rainbow Dash.
Well, if it's too dull, my mind will wander, and I'll think of things, finding inspiration, if you will. But if it's too engaging, then it's not boring by default. What I really need is to get those doldrums rolling, is something in between. It has to be engaging enough to hold my focus, but drab enough not to be entertaining in any way.
That sounds kinda specific.
Rainbow Dash rubbed her head.
Can you think of an example?
Oh, yes. They print these number games in the newspaper where you have to fill in a grid with digits from 1 to 9, where each row, column, and 3x3 square contain all the numbers and no duplicates.
You mean something? But I thought you liked those.
I do normally. But I find that if I try to do too many things in one sitting, they can get quite repetitive and tedious. I can't lose focus either, because if I do, I'll make a mistake, and none of the numbers will line up, and I'll have to start the puzzle all over again.
So what I gather is they're going to find different things for each of them.
Possibly.
Rarity made a wincing motion and hissed under her breath.
Of course, that is a bold claim.
Ooh. That's just me, king of hot takes.
That doesn't sound boring. That sounds frustrating.
Rainbow Dash said.
Speaking of frustrating.
Pinky dragged in a card table and pulled up a chair to it so she could sit down and flop her head on the table. Rainbow and Rarity continued to talk about things that bored them, but Pinky wasn't really paying attention anymore. Her eyes glazed over and her lids grew heavy.
Sounds pretty boring.
Yeah. She finds people talking to be boring. Relatable. Twisting about, Twilight tried to stop spinning, but wound up tumbling faster somehow.
Ugh.
She moaned, feeling slightly greenish while the universe lurched about like a lopsided ballet dancer doing a handstand on a lumpy trampoline. Jesus. What an analogy.
It's pretty good.
She focused to quell her queasiness, lest her lunch wind up in orbit around her.
They're bound to have noticed that I've gone missing by now.
She muttered, closing her eyes and taking a deep breath of nothing as the tumbling got to her again.
Yep, I'll bet that Pinky's galvanizing the others into action right now. And not off doing something completely random that has no possible way of helping whatsoever.
That exact moment, the hustle and bustle of Cloudsdale's busy streets came to an abrupt halt. Pinky was right in the middle of a road, buried up to her chin in the gaseous pavement. This left only her head sticking out, with her cheeks baggy and flush with the white, fluffy ground. Several Pegasi gathered around, staring at the peculiar sight. "Pinky, is that you?" one asked, a freckled cream pony with hair that looked like it fought a watermelon and lost. Ooh, just totally roasting the ponies.
Yikes-a-rooney. Oh, hi, blossom forth.
Twisting round, Pinky's face perked up and she put on a big grin. "Do you need any help?"
Help? Why would I need wait?
Her eyes went wide and then she squinted, peering around at her surroundings.
Towering white buildings? Confused flying ponies?
She stuck her tongue out, slurping against the street.
Damp, vaporous soil?
Ew. Groaning, she clenched her eyes shut.
Ugh, my head's in the clouds, isn't it?
Well.
My head's in the clouds.
Yelling, Pinky threw her hooves in the air, reaching straight up.
Oh, come on, this isn't good enough.
With a puff, she vanished, sinking out of sight. A short while later, the door chimed as Pinky returned to the Ponyville boutique. This time, Rainbow Dash was wearing one of the grass outfits that Rarity had dragged out earlier.
"Oh, hey, you're back."
Once again, she darted behind a screen to shutter her garment.
We really can't help you if you go wandering off. I'm not the one who needs help.
Pinky muttered.
Twilight's the one who needs help. As it turns out, listening to ponies talk about boring things is, in fact, pretty boring. But it didn't work. My getting bored isn't going to save her from outer space.
Duh. I could have told you that.
Rainbow Dash said. She flicked a twig out of her mane and shook her wings. A few leaves came fluttering down, along with a single feather.
What? No. It would have worked, but I just wasn't bored enough. I don't think I can get that bored, knowing that she's out there, floating endlessly in an empty void.
Rarity rolled her eyes.
So, I don't want to be a downer, but it's been a while, and can ponies even survive in outer space?
Rainbow asked.
Whoa. Don't write Twilight's obituary. Don't write Twilight's obituary yet. She'll be fine so long as we save her.
It did say obituary.
Obituary.
It's a pun on space.
Yeah, I get it.
Do you get it?
Yes, I get it.
It's a space pun, Ross.
Yeah, I get it.
Pinky plodded around, pacing again.
We just have to figure out how.
You mean building a rocket ship?
Rainbow Dash asked.
Are either of you rocket scientists?
Pinky asked.
Well, I'm glad you asked. I have no idea how to make a rocket get off the ground, but I'm sure I could make it look fabulous.
I'm sure you could too, Rarity. Rarity said.
I think Angel Bunny plays that Kerbunny space program.
Rainbow said.
No. What we need is a plan that's guaranteed to work. What we need is something that cannot possibly go wrong in any way, shape, or form.
Pinky froze, gasping in a huge breath of air.
I've got it. I know exactly what to do.
Still floating throughout the endless cosmos, Twilight was now surrounded by a rapidly expanding sea of feathers. She'd found that she could alter her momentum by tossing them with her magic, and used this to her advantage to bring her tumbling to a minimum. All it cost her was a sore, itchy wing and a bit of pride. She groaned, watching her down spin away until it was smaller than the pinpricks of the billions of stars surrounding her in all directions.
Let's see. If I was gonna look for a missing pony, the first thing I would do is check the usual places.
Her violet eyes reflected spiral galaxies and bright splotches on their glossy surfaces.
Okay, so there's definitely not a usual place. Dowsing spells are really complicated, but we're connected to the cutie map by the elements of harmony. I bet Starlight could use that to form a flawless seeker spell. It's perfect.
So, cutie map, elements of harmony, is that like find my iPhone type thing?
Ah, yes. Well, the elements of harmony. I don't know if you actually know what those are.
They're the elements that represent the main six.
Yes. They are, magic, kindness, honesty, laughter, loyalty, generosity. And in the opening of the 5th season, there was a map that came out of the ground of Twilight Sparkle's new castle, in stores now. And, it was like, it showed all of Equestria, and it showed like their cutie marks on the map, and it pointed to where like separate particular places needed to solve a friendship problem.
Okay. She grinned. The universe did not grin back.
Well, finding me's just the first step. Star Swirl the Bearded's good at portal spells, though he's only used them to banish things. I'm sure he could figure something out. And Celestia and Luna both know a lot about space, so... Plus, there are ponies like Moondancer and Sunburst, who are both really good with magic. Heck, if I had access to the Canterlot archives, I could probably figure something out too.
She paused, watching the stars burn. One twinkled as a stray feather briefly obscured its light.
It might be scary out here, but I can rest assured knowing that a lot of brilliant ponies are working their hardest to come up with a plan to rescue me. My plan is brilliant. We must stuff Twilight's castle full of plastic playpen balls.
Pinky declared.
What?
Neither Rarity nor Rainbow Dash thought that made one lick of sense, but they both decided to go along with it anyway. For one, it really was quite preposterous to think that Twilight be quietly listening to dull poetry one moment and be randomly tumbling in outer space the next. They each thought that this was more a prank than that Pinky wanted to pull on Twilight for leaving abruptly, but things still didn't make sense. Like, why did Pinky try to get bored first? And why tell them that Twilight was in space instead of just asking for help with that prank? Rainbow Dash flew up and stuck a hose in one of the windows while Pinky turned on a ball blower. Thousands of brilliant, colorful billiards. Oh, are they billiard balls?
I don't know.
Bounced and bowled down crystalline corridors. Inside, Rarity helped direct them into the rooms, arranging them so that each one had its own color. After an hour's worth of work, they'd mostly filled the trunk-shaped entrance part, with all the rooms stuffed in the ceiling and the hallway up to Rarity's knees. There had to be some reason for doing this.
Maybe the balls are like little planets or something.
Rainbow Dash said.
And by putting them all in one place, we're, increasing the castle's gravity, which will pull Twilight down from space. And, something.
She scratched her head. Rarity eased herself out the front door while she still could. A few colorful balls poured out behind her, while Rainbow Dash collected and tossed back in the window.
Ha ha. Which Rainbow Dash collected?
Shoot. Pinky had run out of balls and was out getting more.
I don't know, darling. I think they're more symbolic. The sky is like a hollow sphere made of a whole spectrum of colors. So that means,
Her eyes creased like an envelope.
a lot of skies is like a lot of space, right? So if space is in Twilight's castle, and Twilight's in space, then Twilight would be in her castle.
What the heck?
Wow, that almost made sense.
Rainbow Dash chuckled under her breath.
It's better than my dumb idea. It makes me wonder what Twilight would come up with.
Twilight was, of course, pondering outer space, because, well, it was a really fascinating subject, full of wondrous mysteries. The cosmos harbored many secrets, such as the origin of the universe, the true nature of dark matter, the enigma of life itself, and why Twilight Sparkle was out there floating in the middle of it for no apparent reason. She sighed, holding up a hoof and twisting it back and forth.
Neat space fact. Despite popular belief, outer space is not actually cold. Temperature is a property of matter, and since space is absent of matter, it doesn't really have any temperature at all. Of the few particles actually out here, most of them are quite hot. This is because they tend to come from the surface of stars or violent explosions or jets. However, space is such a good vacuum that they're spread out so far that they can't heat anything up by conduction. A thermometer placed in space would simply measure the balance of the balance of temperature between radiation absorbed from starlight and the radiation the thermometer itself gives off.
Did someone say starlight?
No.
Glimmer?
If it happens, well, yes, they did say starlight, but shut up. If it happens to be far from any star or galaxy in the intergalactic medium, its equilibrium temperature would match the cosmos microwave background. And that is, in fact, a really cold.
Twilight blinked, staring into the vast twinkling starscape of the endless cosmos. Shifting her leg altered her momentum, and she tumbled a little faster.
Neat space fact. Space sucks.
Ooh, roast in space!
Only one floor?
Pinky's left eye twitched as she stared up at the towering structure of Twilight's castle. The enormity of the structure seemed to laugh at her feeble effort to fill it.
Sorry, Pinky, but those are all plastic balls in Ponyville.
Rainbow Dash wiped some sweat off her brow. Rarity squinted while peering at the lowest row of windows. She used her magic to shutter the curtains, hiding the colored balls from sight.
Don't you think that's quite enough, darling? Any pony who opens the front door will get buried. And we'll have to clean this up eventually, you know. No, it has to be full all the way to the top.
Pinky's voice nearly cracked. She yelled so loud.
But we're out of balls.
Rainbow Dash pointed at an empty sack to help make her point. Pinky snatched it and climbed up a ladder to a second-story window and tossed it in.
It does it better. Just grab something. Anything. We need to fill this place to the very brink. To the very brink.
Rainbow Dash and Rarity exchanged a worried glance, but they didn't question Pinky. That pony was too hysteric to reason with. The best thing they could do was to humor her until she calmed down. Is that really the best thing you could do? Wouldn't the best thing be ignoring her?
Probably.
Hopefully before Twilight's castle resembled a Thanksgiving turkey.
Oh, hey. What a coincidence. We were just reading a Thanksgiving story last week.
With Pinky darting about, carrying odds and ends of all shapes and sizes, other ponies got curious and eventually joined in. None of them really knew why Pinky was stuffing Twilight's castle, but they didn't really care. It was a Pinky thing. They took the opportunity to offload their old junk, such as scratched sofas, broken lamps, and old boxes of threadbare clothing, moldy bales of hay, whatever, it didn't matter. Pinky took it all, carried it up makeshift scaffolding, and tossed it in one open window after the next. The castle's second floor filled up, then the third. It groaned from the weight, swaying and listing like no castle ever should. But still, Pinky went on, stuffing it for all she was worth. Twilight started laughing, and not a healthy laugh at that. It was a soul-crushing, I can't believe I'm lost forever in outer space kind of laugh, sounding much like a series of wheezing coughs and sniffling sneezes. Well, okay, it was either a laugh, or she encountered an incredibly rare and very specific type of space dust. There's a rather peculiar and somewhat contradictory phenomena that happens to space travelers. See, outer space is so vast that it's said to be infinite. If the universe is truly infinite, though, then everything possible should exist somewhere, and anything that can happen will happen. So if something exists, that means it's also possible that this thing could cross paths with a spacegoer. Thus, if something can potentially exist, then there's a surprisingly high chance that a pony floating in space will encounter it, even though space itself is mostly empty. Once Twilight's heaving calmed down, she let out a very long groan.
Heck. I can't believe it. There's literally nothing for like billions of miles in all directions. And I get hit right in the face by the one space sneeze cloud in the entire universe.
The scaffolding hastily assembled around the castle creaked and groaned almost as much as the overburdened structure itself. Almost all the way to the top, windows were shuttered, barely holding back the mounds and mounds of pure junk stuffing each floor. Pinkie Pie was working on the attic, with a feral grin on her face. She threw in a box and pulled a cord, causing an inflatable raft to pop up in the middle of the room. With junk haphazardly placed in precarious positions, this was followed by a series of crashes, tinkles, and clunks. Tinkles. Rainbow Dash cringed at the expensive noises.
Pinky, that's the last room. Don't you think that's enough?
Not quite. There's still some room left. Give me more stuff.
Deadly serious, Pinky spoke in an even tone, with a brow furrowed like an iron waffle. Wait, shouldn't that be like a waffle iron or something?
No, an iron waffle.
Okay.
But
Waffle made of iron. More stuff.
Twisting about on the rickety scaffolding, Pinky pressed her muzzle up against Dash's face so hard that their eyeballs nearly touched.
Okay.
Rainbow Dash shoved off, mourning the loss of her personal space.
But the only thing that's left are those
She shuddered.
stinky balloons from the exotic fruit parade. The durian-scented green fuzzy ones. And, I'm just saying that no pony in their right mind wanted to touch those things for a good reason.
I don't care. Give them to me.
Well, if you insist.
Rainbow Dash wrinkled her nose, slapped on a clothespin, then pulled out a C-clamp and clamped the clothespin tight. She also wrapped a scarf around her face, then added a gas mask on top of that and put on a hazmat suit over everything else. Come on, they're just durians. Diving down, she returned with a heavily sealed box thick with tape that she slapped with all kinds of warning labels. Pinky hadn't even opened it yet, and a rank stench like turpentine and sweaty gym socks was already making her cheeks turn green.
Thanks.
Pinky muttered, sounding congested as her tears clogged her sinuses.
That should do it.
Alas, the balloons were artificial. They lacked the juicy, succulent taste that made the durian fruit worthwhile, and tasted exactly the way they smelled. The fact that Pinky could stand to blow up even one of them, let alone all of them, was a testament to her level of dedication, and the lengths to which she could go to help a friend. Drifting endlessly through space, tumbling through the infinite void non-stop without end, was about as pleasant as it sounded. Everything was affected eventually. Dust, asteroids, even the stars. This screaming became internalized, released as tiny fluctuations of light. Stars twinkled. Twilight sparkled. I get it.
Yeah, me too.
Well, either that, or it was the light reflecting off the dust on her sweaty hide. When a pony is left floating in space too long, they start to come up with some crazy theories. Eyes watering, usually pink skin a pale green. Pinkie Pie pinched her nose and wiped her tongue off on sandpaper after inflating the last of the horrible, durian-scented balloons. Holding the fuzzy thing high, she squished it into the final empty spot at the very top of the attic. With a grunt, she shuddered and latched the window, and at last, Twilight's castle was as full as it could possibly get. Splat! Somewhat unceremoniously, a lavender unicorn face-planted on her own doormat. It took all of 6 seconds to realize what exactly had broken her fall. Staggering to her feet, a manic grin rippled across her face.
Feet?
It said feet, Ross.
Yeah, I know what it said. I'm just confused at that. 'Cause she doesn't have feet. I'm back. Celestia, I'm back. It's good to see you too, Twilight.
Rarity said, trotting up to her friend.
You would not believe what happened while you were gone.
Yeah,
Rainbow Dash flew over.
Pinkie Pie kept saying you were lost in outer space. Would you believe it? The things she comes up with sometimes.
But I was.
Twilight's grin faded and she seemed lost in thought.
How exactly did it get me back? Was it Discord's dimension door or inverse Stygian banishment or was?
Rarity raised an eyebrow, while Dash shrugged wings and all.
Actually, we just filled your castle with a bunch of random junk. What was that?
There was a thump and a crash as Pinkie Pie hopped down and part of the scaffolding collapsed.
Yep. We stuffed every last nook and cranny full of plastic balls, balloons, confetti, boxes, silly foam, old pizza boxes, bales of hay, literally everything else. And now you're completely out of space. I'm out of...
Twilight looked at her bulging castle, creaking and groaning and listing to one side. Then straight up at the clear blue yonder,
space.
She slapped herself in the face, groaning.
A pun? Really?
Pinky, I don't think it works that way,
Rainbow said. Squinting, Rarity ran a hoof along Twilight's flank, smearing off a light coating of glimmering stardust.
Apparently it does.
Well, I don't get it. You were really in outer space?
Rainbow Dash asked.
Twilight
looked back up at the clear blue sky.
It was really spacey. It sure seemed that way.
How's that even possible?
Rainbow asked.
How did you get up there in the first place?
We already asked.
What happened? I'll tell you what happened.
Pinky jutted a hoof at the purple princess pony. She wrinkled her brow and a deep frown tugged her cheeks down.
Twilight Pinky promised that she'd pay rapt attention to Maud's entire poetry rockathon. And then she went ahead and did the one thing that I explicitly told her not to do. Oh, that.
Twilight cringed, scuffed her hooves, and looked at the ground.
Sorry.
What? What did she do?
Rainbow asked.
She totally spaced out.
The end.
Woo-wee.
I still don't get why filling her house was what they had to do.
Neither do I, but I did kind of zone out for a few times in there because I'm pretty tired.
You mean you spaced out?
I don't get it.
Well, you see...
I do see when I wear my glasses, which I've lost. Again.
Nice job.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I think this story was pretty funny with the puns, you know?
Yeah.
I, for one, like pun humor.
Like a fool.
But I still would have liked an explanation to why they had to fill her house like that.
Yeah, me too. I rather enjoyed it. I mean, I was pretty tired, so I think I couldn't follow a whole lot of it whence listening. But hey, it was still pretty good.
I thought the descriptions of space were really pretty, even if they were a pain to read aloud.
Yeah. Now you know how it feels.
Yeah, I know how much you like to describe space.
Yeah.
I think that wraps everything up.
Yeah, it appears so. So guys, thank you all for listening. And now Wizzy's gonna say his classic catchphrase that he says at the end of every episode.
Bye!
I was hoping something funnier. All right, bye everybody.